So let's talk outer game. Right now, I'm going to share with you one of the biggest tools that I use for frame setting, and specifically frame setting where it relates to pulling or actually getting a result or getting some kind of compliance. This is a technique I call monologuing. And I have to give Ryan, former instructor Ryan, credit for this because he came up with the term and the technique. But what it basically is the idea that rather than having a back and forth conversation, at certain points, it's very beneficial to sort of ramble a little bit and to continue just talking and talking and talking, okay? Now, inherently, it's sort of low value because inherently in game you want to do, like, it's sort of less is more, right? If you can get the same result with less effort, it's more effective. However, the beauty of monologuing is this. There are certain sort of like, look at the interaction as sort of this idea space, right? There's this space where you're sharing certain ideas with her, she's sharing certain ideas with you, and you're creating this understanding of what the relationship between you and the girl is. And the more you are contributing to that idea space, the more of the ideas that are in there are your ideas, the more the frame sort of shifts towards you, okay? So at certain times, instead of throwing out an idea and having her object and throw in her idea, it's very beneficial to ramble a little bit, talk a little faster, roll out 4, 5, 6 ideas at once so that you're just like flooding the idea space with your frames. You're flooding the idea space with these different concepts and ideas that either you believe are true or that you would like to be true in order for the interaction to go in a certain way, okay? So the idea here is you throw in so many of these things that they're kind of taken as assumptions because there was never an objection to them. And specifically, if you throw out 3, 4, 5 things that are possibly objectionable at once, she's not going to object to all 5. She'll object to the most objectionable of them, and she'll leave the rest of them present in the conversation. Okay. So in principle, like the short version of this is something called sneaking one past the goalie, which is, say, for example, you said like, I want to have sex with you. They're like, no, we can't have sex. If you said, on the other hand, I want to have disrespectful, dirty sex with you in the most ridiculous way in some kind of public place while you're wearing like a fucking like elephant suit and like smack you on the ass, and then I want to like, I don't know, and then I want to like share you with the police officer that comes and arrests us. That's like so obnoxious that they're going to object to like some obnoxious thing about it, or they'll just laugh at how hilarious or weird it is, or they'll say like, what the fuck have you been smoking or something like that. But they won't object to the fundamental thing, which is the sex part, right? Now that's like a crazy example, and I wouldn't actually use that phrase in set. So please don't go use that phrase in set. But the idea is you've said so many weird, objectionable, off-the-wall things that the most unobjectionable of them all was having sex. And so the sex becomes sort of an acceptable thing within it, right? So the short version of this is actually too short to work, but a better example maybe. If you said like, I want to have unprotected sex with you in a disrespectful way, like she'll object to disrespectful, or she'll object to unprotected, but the sex part's likely to slide through. So that's kind of the idea of the monologue. The other thing you can do is on the open, if you're talking and you feel like you're likely to get a shit test, or she seems like she's not being very receptive, you can continue to monologue and try different opening topics and different strategies until you hit on one that maybe works. And by not allowing the objection into the conversation because there just wasn't a space for it, you've avoided having that sort of on the record, right? If this were like a court case, it's been stricken from the record because it never entered into the record. So that's the idea, is that there are certain times where if you're talking more, you're contributing more to the frame. Now, this should not be your general mode of communication. You shouldn't be just rambling the whole set, because that's fucking weird. It's also really try hard and really needy looking. You want to be, most of the time, like the vast majority of the time, cool, collected, in charge, in control of things, etc. But the occasional ramble at key moments when you're trying to escalate in a certain way, or when you're trying to introduce new ideas into the conversation, can actually be very, very useful. And the other way that it's very useful relates to another outer game concept, which is a concept I call being first with the frame. The idea of being first with the frame is there are certain things that are going to come up, and whoever kind of comes up with the frame or whoever brings them into the conversation sort of controls their context. So for example, when you're talking to a girl, it's very likely, if things are going well and going intimately, that at some point she's going to say something like, oh, I'm not going to sleep with you tonight, right? And it'll probably be out of the blue because she is thinking of sleeping with you. But the fact that she brought it up means she's in control of that frame. It was her frame, so she's like the initiator, she's in charge of it, she kind of dictates what that frame's all about. If, on the other hand, before she said that, you said something like, just so you know, like, I like you, but we're probably not gonna have sex tonight, so don't get any ideas. Something like that. Now it's your frame, you're in control of it, you're in charge of it. So if she brings it up later, you get to dictate what it means and doesn't mean in the conversation. So being first with the frame is a very, very useful thing, because if you're the originator of the frame, she's always copying you, or you sort of get to dictate what it means because you created it. Okay. So that's another reason why monologuing is useful, is it allows you to be first with several frames. It allows you to be first with a frame in a lot of contexts, okay? So this idea of introducing frames, controlling the conversation space, and being first with the frame are all very, very useful in terms of setting frames preemptively and avoiding getting into a frame battle, because the frame's already been pre-established rather than being debated.